Welcome to Squirrel, the podcast for distracted writers, hosted by Candace J. Thomas and Jodi L. Milner. Welcome to Squirrel, everybody. This is Jodi.
And I'm Candace.
And today we're talking about love triangles.
Love triangles. I'm so excited about this episode.
We're just a little jazzed.
I
think this is going to be fun.
Yeah, no, love triangles, man. Let's go.
All right. So chances are you've read books that have romantic elements. It might not have been a romance, but almost every single book has a romantic element in it somewhere. And chances are that element might have been a love triangle. They're either loved or hated. Some people can't stand them. Some people are like, oh, yeah.
I love them.
You love them.
I am a big fan. I love writing these.
So today, our biggest goal is how do you write a love triangle without being annoying or falling into some of the common pitfalls? And so first, we kind of need to define a love triangle, even though this is a bit of a no-brainer.
Sure.
I liked the definition because this granulated it. That's a verb. We're using it now.
Yes, absolutely.
We made sugar out of it. So the definition here is that your central character is romantically involved with two other characters at the same time, and their romantic goal is figuring out which one they're going to keep.
Right.
I mean, that is the bare bones definition.
That is. I also think, though, I would go a step further because I think that there's a specific complexity to writing a love triangle. Like the complexity of choice given to the reader who is involved in this, in making wherever their specific heart yields in which character that they want. So there's a little bit of participation with the reader.
Well, it's like they need to be able to root for one, and almost every single time there's going to be one that's like, there's going to be like the bad boy, and there's going to be the one that can support her. And it's like, which one do we want her to have?
Smarter choice. We don't want the smarter choice.
I mean, this is why Bachelor is a thing. It's like the worst love triangle. There's
triangle,
like 40 of them.
Quadrangle. It's a
not pentagon.
Even, it's a
20-sided
dice. I mean,
it's a dodecahedron.
Right. I don't know anything. Do you watch The Bachelor? This is off topic.
I refuse to.
I don't watch it. I have no I never did. I had no interest in it.
And yet
at
here
all.
we are, and it's 48th season, I think.
Is it?
No.
Oh, heavens. Who even knows?
I made up a number. But they have so many iterations of it, they might as well.
Yeah, sure. Well, but that's something, going back to our original thing here with love triangles, it's something that the reader or the watcher is invested in.
Oh, yeah.
In these specific relationships in which one
and there's some wish fulfillment there, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, hey.
Oh, yeah.
We know.
Well, I mean, that's a romance story in general.
Yeah, we know.
So when we have a love triangle, sometimes if this is a romance book, the love triangle might be
the whole point.
The plot of the book. It might be the biggest decision the main character needs to have.
Yeah.
However, if this is not a romance book, it's going to always fall into a subplot.
Yeah. Most of the things that I've read recently, or in fantasy, the fantasy genre, that's not really the point, is not the love triangle. That is just the consequence that happens underneath. It's not the specific arch of anything.
And this most specific romantasy that we've been reading lately, we've both been doing Court of, I'm going to say it wrong.
A Court of Thorn and Roses.
That one.
Yes.
Love triangles abound in it, but it's not the point of the story for the main character generally.
Right.
There's always something else going on that's a little more important to the fate of the universe.
Right. Exactly. We're not romance writers either. So it's not something that, even if I write a triangle, it's not where that just happens to be part of the story, not the...
I would be bored if that was the only thing I was writing. I would run out of things to say.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you too.
So you've written them, right?
Yeah.
You want to tell me about yours? I mean, with no spoilers, of course.
Yeah, so I have Vivittera that's one of the central problems in it is the triangle. The main person, Ronald, who is I don't want to say insta-love, but the connection with the young reader or the young protagonist from the very beginning, who doesn't really know anything about it, but it continues on to a dependency of another character. And because she's only with the first character for just a little bit in the first book. So it's a direction that as the author was an intention to get the reader invested into that first character. But when the second character comes around, this is a time for exploration within the character development of your protagonist. When you are within the, I think it's understanding more of the maturity that is happening with my specific protagonist, with Naomi as a character, where she doesn't really, does she fit with either one of them? Is that really her goal, is to be with any of these people? It's just like kind of the subplot right there. But I've also written I've written a bunch of them. Like, geez, Vampires has one, Hawkweed has one.
I'm thinking you like them a lot.
I do like them, but because I don't know, maybe I like the misdirection that love triangles can do. I like the cliffhangers of it. I like the emotional investment that I can get from a triangle. The other thing, and I hate to be a little personal here, but I've been in a triangle, and it's a very weird place to be, to understand, to
navigate.
To veer one way or the other. And yeah, I won't go into that at all. But
yes, the squirrels would like to have you come back, please.
Maybe for my Patreon people, I'll dive into that. It's going to be a lovely novel one of these days. I'm going to rip everyone's heart out. It's going to be lovely.
Oh, that sounds awful.
But that's probably my own personal emotional connection is one of the driving forces of why I like them so much. Maybe, why I don't seek them out, but if there is one, I'm interested to see where it leads, So how about you? Have you written?
So I'm not super comfortable with love triangles because my experience is I've always been the third wheel, which is a different flavor of...
That's a different
That's
episode.
a dysfunctional unicycle. I mean, it's it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even in real life, if you find yourself caught between different relationships and you can't figure it out, it's uncomfortable. And that might be part of my neurospiciness. Gotcha. Where it's just like, I don't want to deal with this level of complexity when it comes to people, because that's something I don't want to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's teenager me just putting my head in the sand because I was very good at that. But yeah, my entire trilogy does have a very loose love triangle. And the first book, it's really obvious because she starts the book very enamored with her childhood sweetheart, and then they get pulled away from each other because of circumstance, and this other individual enters her life, and she learns all of this stuff about herself and all of this stuff about her world, and all of a sudden she's not the same person anymore. And going back to the childhood sweetheart's like, that does feel like going back a step. But she's young and she doesn't really understand why she's feeling that way. Me as the author, I'm like, I'm being mean to you.
Those first loves
I didn't
are so
plan on
hard.
it. Because like when I was writing it, I'm like, I will never write a love triangle. And someone's like, look at this. There are two individuals interested in your main character. That is the textbook definition of a love triangle. I'm like, oh, dang it. I didn't mean to. It was an accident, I swear.
Yeah, that's...
But it turned out good because it also increased tension, like having to make a choice.
Yeah, exactly. When reading a love triangle, how do you feel about that? Does it make you feel uncomfortable? Do you root for one or the other?
I think if it's done well, like, again, it can increase that tension and be like, there's that intrigue and there's that decision-making process. But in Court of Mist and, gosh, is it Roses? Fury, thank you. I will never nail that, no matter how many times I try.
The blank and blank and blank.
Yeah. It's like, choose your assemblage of nouns.
Blank and blank.
That's a book. Like, there's very, very obvious love triangles that are being played upon in a way that feels very childish. And it doesn't help that I'm not resonating with this main character very much. She's definitely not coming across as one of my favorites. And so I think that is making that love triangle not read very well because she's being very childish about it. And she's a full grown adult not full grown. I mean, she's still technically in her 20s.
Yeah.
But it's like you're not a 12-year-old anymore, and you're acting like someone much younger when it comes to all this stuff. And that bothered me.
Gotcha. The when reading when writing relationships, I need to have that drama, and so that's what I look for when I'm reading those types of books. I think, is there any books that you can think of off the top of your head that you would recommend?
There's some that I think it worked really well. Like, honestly, I think the Hunger Games love triangle worked really well because the two gentlemen, we have Peeta and we have Gale, they represent very different aspects of her life. One understands her upbringing, understands how hard it was, and the other one is coming from surviving the Hunger Games, kind of. I feel that one added to the story, and that's the goal. It needs to add to the story.
Sure.
So I liked the way that triangle worked out. Although at the very end, I kind of wished that she chose the other guy.
Yeah,
I do, but that's me and 70% of readers. So
I didn't have a problem with the ending of Mockingjay. Well, I mean, sorry, I had different problems with the ending of Mockingjay, but I thought Peeta was just fine for me. But the one I really liked, or that I was thinking about, there's a couple that I put in here, but the Infernal Devices, which is Cassandra Clare, that's the Clockwork. Those are the Clockwork Prince and the Clockwork Princess.
There's the Clockwork Angel in
Clockwork
there,
Angel is the first one. I liked how that triangle resolved. I won't tell you the ending because I think it's awesome. But that's one of the reasons that triangles are so hard, because they need to end. It's not paint your wagon. You can't have both of them. You have to end up with one of them. So there is going to be a team that is going to be left out in the cold. And that one helped me. I don't know. I think that the main person, Tessa, gets the best of both of the characters in the end. So I really liked that. I thought that Cassandra Clare did a great job with ending that. Not in books, I added this one, but Dawson's Creek. Did you watch Dawson's Creek? I we do not know the very end of who she picks until the very end of the very last season, the very last scene. Do you see who Joey actually ends up with? I'm just saying. I thought that was awesome. Right. And yes, I think that they did the right thing. I think she ended up with the right person. Even though, if I'm just going to spoil all of this, Joey ends up with Pacey, Josh Jackson's character. Doesn't even matter. But the whole show is called Dawson's Creek, and it's about Dawson. And he, in the end, doesn't get the girl. What's the point? But we all know that Joey deserves to be with Pacey.
Irony. Huzzah.
Oh my gosh, that was my young 20s just came out. Oh, holy crap. Anyway.
What about bad examples?
Yeah. Well, we're gonna hit Twilight. I have to hit Twilight.
You have to hit Twilight.
Because that's, honestly, I think when people think of triangles, they think of Twilight.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's so black and white. And there was Team Edward and Team Jacob.
Yes.
It was that bad.
What team were you?
I'm team I don't play this game.
I think I'm going to go into writing style here. And I don't know if Stephanie Meyer actually thought of this, but there's a problem that comes with triangles, is how to not alienate your audience, how to satisfy everyone. And if you know that you want Edward and Bella to be together, but you've created Jacob, who's the best option here. He's not crazy. He's not obsessive.
He's not abusive.
Yeah, right? Not creepy. It doesn't watch you sleep. Oh. Anyway, he is the better, she had to satisfy the audience somehow. So here we have her, Bella choosing Edward, them getting married. That was, in Breaking Dawn. But then how to satisfy the audience with Jacob? What are we going to do with Jacob here? So I don't know. So then her decision, Meyer's decision, was to have him imprint on a baby. This is the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah, mistakes were made.
It was just what is happening? But that was her, I don't know, giving the audience some kind of satisfying ending with Jacob, I guess.
He has to stay in the picture because of the baby.
I don't even know. It was, there you go. Just too weird.
All right.
Just too weird.
So, and I mentioned I don't like The Bachelor, the Cinderella, the Bachelor trope. And there's a book, The Selection by Kiera Cass, which is literally Cinderella meets The Bachelor. That's the whole thing. And so in this one, there's a
Isn't Cinderella basically The Bachelor? Because he's the Bachelor, the prince is.
Yeah, the
and
prince
then everyone
is the Bachelor,
has to
and
be...
then there's these arsenal of women chosen to compete for his love.
Uh-huh.
And
they get to compete though in this game?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Or
it's
this book?
So silly.
Okay.
And so she has an old love interest who has worked to gain her love and trust over years, and now she has to give her heart to the prince because money. And it did not work for me. It fell flat, and it's just you're making stupid decisions that make you look like a stupid person.
Oh, gosh.
And I don't like characters intentionally making bad decisions just because it makes the story more sticky. It just seems like you're just making bad decisions.
I agree. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know that book, but yeah, all right. I totally get it.
So, quick 4 things to consider when writing, the do's. What are the must-haves? So I think we each have 2.
Yeah, this was kind of hard for me to think of because you already hit some really good ones. So you go first.
So all 3 of the characters have to be well developed. They have to be their own people with their own desires and their own goals that lie outside of the triangle and the get the girl or get the guy. Because if they're not developed and they're these little stick people that are just, all my life is going after this girl. Gag. That's so boring.
I agreed. I put, it doesn't need to be a triangle until it is. What it means like that. So there's a book that Taylor Jenkins Reid wrote called One True Loves, where the main character is in this great relationship, but then her husband goes missing and he's gone and she presumes him dead for years. So she falls in love with somebody else, but then he comes back into her life. And then all of a sudden here we are placed with a problem that she has to choose between these 2 people. And so I thought that was, I don't know, I liked... Yeah, it doesn't need to be. It's not specifically a triangle until it is. That's all.
Okay, sure. Okay, my next one is that between the 2 suitors, they both need to have a fighting chance. They both need to be goodish options. It can't be obvious. It's one is a guy with a really good job and a really good heart, and he's a teddy bear, and he just wants to take care of you. And one is a complete jerk, and he doesn't have a job, but you like him. It shouldn't. And again, this is maybe my neurospiciness talking about, being practical when it comes to life decisions. Mm-hmm. But one seems like a stupid choice. So both characters need to have enough of these really good life partner characteristics to make them viable choices.
Yes, I agree. I wanted, when you're writing this, you need to consider audience as well. The audience needs to be part of your decision or you're going to get angry people and
not in a good way.
Right. Don't make decisions that are easy for them, but make sure that it's satisfying. So this means also that you might have a good idea for an ending, but depending on the audience, it might need to change. I don't know. So consider your audience, make sure that they're satisfied.
Alrighty. What are some things that you should avoid at all costs when writing a love triangle storyline?
I don't like abuse, and I don't like it when they go back to abuse. That is just a personal thing.
Which is why Twilight keeps coming up.
Yeah, maybe.
Because he's not particularly nice. And he's very manipulative and very controlling.
Yeah. Just I want people to be aware of the sensitivities that are encountering when you are approaching something like writing this kind of relationship. I did put as I recently watched Waitress, the Broadway version with Sarah Bareilles, which was fantastic. But Waitress is an interesting movie where there's a triangle, but she's married and there is an affair. And so it's hard to root for anyone there. honestly, because the affairs, I don't like affairs either. But
no, infidelity
it's just not something I want to read. But even though her husband is a bad person and he's abusive and I don't like him, it needs to be like she's the one that needs to get away. It's a story about her, not about the triangle. So.
I love how you're like fencing at me with your pencil.
I am I'm very handsy.
You're very passionate about this.
I am passionate about. Waitress was amazing, but yes, this story is really hard. So anyway, all
right, no waffling. So if she falls head over heels in love with one, and it's like, I want to commit to you. Let's go steady. This is awesome. And then like 3 pages later, she meets the other one. She's like, oh my gosh, my heart has just been stolen. And I love you. And you're amazing. And I'm going to break up with the other guy. And you go back and forth and do this a couple of times.
I slap you. You're going to make people angry. Don't do that.
It makes your main character seem like there isn't another thought in their head other than this person's paying attention to me. I love it. It makes them puppies. They turn into puppies.
Very good. I'm going to go back to things to avoid. I'm going back to considering the crowd favorite because the crowd favorite versus the principles of the story. Does the crowd favorite need to win? Even if that wasn't your intention. My example here is Pretty in Pink. So Pretty in Pink has Andy ending with Blaine in the end. That was not the original ending. The original ending was Andy ending up with Ducky. Now, this whole movie where she's a little bit obsessive with this, the rich kid who's not good for her. And in this rich world that's not good for her, it goes against all of the principles that she stands for. And Ducky is the obvious choice. The audience did, when they did, I don't know, beta watching. I don't know exactly what they did. They had
a test audience.
Yeah, they had a test audience and they didn't like the ending. They're like, no, what's the whole point of watching the show if she doesn't end up with Blaine? So they changed the ending and had her end up with Blaine. And now I'm like, I want the original ending back because Ducky is the best part of that entire show. So she should definitely end up with Ducky. Anyway, there is I'm passionate about that one as well. But just consider your principles and the crowd favorite.
And if the crowd's like, do the other one, maybe it's not the worst idea to reconsider.
If they're going to chuck the book across the room because what you did, then I don't think that that's a service to your audience. I don't know.
No,
there you go.
Do not write wall bangers. All right, my last thing to avoid is sacrificing story for trying to accommodate the triangle. Like, there does need to be other things going on, even if the triangle is the most important thing that happens in the book. If that's the only thing and you're sacrificing all the other little bits that make books really fun to read, you are robbing the reader of a full experience. So make sure that you're not neglecting your primary storylines and your sub-storylines. Like, make sure they're all performing at their best.
There you go. No, yeah, that goes right into my encouragement, my last final thoughts is because I love triangles so much. I really do, because I like the emotional pull of it. But if you can write one well and successfully, then you have the reader forever, forever. So I really considered at the end of my series how it was going to satisfy my audience. Because I didn't write my third one. First 2 I wrote before I had a publisher. My third one I did not. I wrote that under a deadline. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to write. But I had an audience by then. So I really put them in my consideration of how to resolve this triangle that I created. So if you can do it successfully, you'll have people forever.
Absolutely. And whether you like the idea of a love triangle or if you're not super fond of it, it's going to happen in your story, whether you like it or not. It might sneak up and it's like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. And you're stuck with it. Rock it. You can make it work. I think it's worth putting in the time to make it work.
Yep. Awesome.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you so much for listening today. We are going to continue our Cupid season.
Yay, Cupid season.
Because next week is going to be all about love tropes.
Love tropes.
the best and the worst. And believe you me, there are some stinky love tropes out there.
I had so much more. Like, the fact that you made me put down 3 is just, it was hard because I kept on thinking of more. Anyway,
I know, limit yourself to the best. All right. Don't forget, we do have a Patreon, and Patreon supporters get bonus audio. We are now being more consistent at making bonus audio, and it's funny.
I mean, if you like the little clips at the end of these things where we have all the outtakes, it's like that.
We also have a buy us a coffee if you want to give us a digital tip. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. It has been a fantastic episode, Candy.
Yay!
Thank you.
Huzzah.
Huzzah.
Thank you for listening to the Squirrel Podcast for the Distracted Writer with Candace J. Thomas and Jodi L. Milner. Please like and subscribe to our podcast for updates and new episodes, and find more information at our website, squirrelpodcast.com. Stay distracted, everyone.
Do you want to do some sort of cue and then start talking?
Sure. Is this the cue?
I don't know.
Only if it'll help you. Okay.
Oh, that laugh was awesome.